Hello and welcome back. Today's message is something that I wanted to share about what is going on with the divine masculine when the divine masculine turns silent. If you're listening to it, you may be a part of my collective that is very close to a 3D reunion. If not, you maybe are getting this message because you just have entered a period of preparation, which is separation, right? No contact. But you yourself have reached a point on the journey where you know that you have healed so much that you feel yourself a little bit detached from your divine masculine. Detached does not mean that you no longer care about your divine masculine. You cannot ever stop caring or stop loving them, or really you can never stop desiring them or life with them. But that's another story. Either way, if you're listening to it, it's aligned for you. And the thing is, I really wanted to make this video as soon as this truth has been revealed to me, because I think that this is part of the journey that is not talked about enough. And I think that it could help to get a higher perspective of your situation. If you're the divine feminine, I think that it's going to make a huge difference for you to kind of get, his side of the story maybe before it's been made completely clear to you by your own divine masculine or by the divine. Maybe this is the way you're finding out. If you're the divine masculine, welcome. Hello. I welcome everybody here because I think that whether you are one or the other polarity, it doesn't really matter, because you and your divine counterpart are one. And so if you're listening to it, if it came up for you as a recommendation, or if you were searching for something and that was what came up, there's something for you to know. And so the thing that is a very big part of our understanding and our learning when it comes to the twin journey itself is that we are obviously one being with our divine counterpart, right? Whichever polarity you are. And at the core, because you're one being, you do desire the same thing. You, bottom line, you are one being. So your desires are the same. You pretty much enjoy the same things. There's a lot of things that are very mirrored, as in opposite, because your counterpart is your mirror, and so they are meant to show you like a different side of the same thing or a situation or a wound, let's say, right? To help you grow, because obviously that is what we are doing with each other here, amongst other things, of course. And so it's like a paradox, right? So on one end, we are obviously one being. Yes, we are one soul and one being split into two bodies. and we are healing and trying to come together. If I was not going to say this, but I'm going to say this, that if you're here and you are on the point of your journey when you're like, no, but I don't care about my divine counterpart, they're toxic, or maybe not toxic, but I have healed and I don't feel the need for them, then you can click out because you're not ready for this. Perhaps you will be one day if that is what your soul have chosen to do. Maybe not. And all peace and love to you, but this is probably not a video for you. So what is very important that we are learning on this journey, that despite us having these really different perspective on the same experiences, right? So basically, you and your divine counterpart are going through the same situations through life, or in your life, right? But they manifest in a different way. So maybe the way you have experienced a certain thing is like one side of the scale, and they will experience, let's say, the other side of that scale, or like the other perspective of the same situation. And it is because you complement each other so well, because you're meant to actually learn. Your soul is learning both sides of the stories, right? So all of these karmic contracts, karmic situations, right? That's just kind of how it is. And a vital part of our journey, so when we are healing, and we are always asked to have understanding for our other self, so your twin, because it's the karmic imprint is gonna try to kind of force you, or is gonna try to convince you, basically your wounded ego is gonna try to convince you to find fault in everything else and everybody else, and not necessarily you. And so when it comes to your twin, every single thing that they did was to remind you, to kind of show you where you're still to heal, so what you have to release. But that can build resentment and anger and feelings of betrayal, right? And so on this journey, you will be shown their side of the story. You will be made to experience certain things, either situations, or this could be through astral travels, or we will just get the clarity that where you will kind of realize like, oh, this is how it has been for them. But because your karmic imprint is a mirrored version of their karmic imprint, right? That is the opposites within you. You kind of don't, well, we on this journey, we have kind of difficulty seeing things from different perspectives, especially when pain is involved, because we are transcending the victim mentality, right? And if you're above it, that's really great. I'm really happy for you, because it feels amazing to no longer be in that state of mind. But it's sometimes still certain things are made to seem in a certain way for us, because these things were meant to trigger something within us that they were not necessarily actually true. So that didn't necessarily happen the way it was shown to you, but it was meant to trigger you, right? And what I'm trying to get at, because you are supposed to see their side of the story, when pain is involved, if your counterpart has done something that you're yet to release, that you're yet to heal, that maybe you're currently working at, right? at transcending, that maybe you're healing, you're working through that, then it's not that easy to put yourself in their shoes, especially because a lot of their motivation for doing things is not being shown to you until much later. And that is kind of how this journey, I guess, works. Let me just put it this way. So it's designed this way because we need to be able to kind of reflect, look back on our experiences, and then comes the clarity where kind of all your experiences and all these situations make sense, and that is how you rise above that. So because you are not always allowed the clarity precisely when you need it, it's very easy for your ego to try to fill in the unknown parts of the situation with the stories that you have been telling yourself, right? So if you're on this journey, so I'm sure that you have been dealing, amongst other things, but let's say with abandonment, right? So if you, before the divine makes you aware of the reasons and actually the truth, like the whole picture of what has been happening in that specific situation that is triggering you, then it's easy for us to kind of like, oh no, but they have betrayed me or they have abandoned me, and how could they, right? But it's not about that. So it feels like a very long intro, but I really want to shed some light on it, because there is a huge difference in how we go through this journey for us divine feminines and for the divine masculine collective. Because we are meant to complete each other completely. And because we are usually experiencing like the opposite sides of, let's say, pretty much every situation you ever been through, because you're supposed to be able to learn from like all the perspective, or both perspective, I guess, then what can happen is that we kind of think that the way we have been experiencing this journey and the awakening and healing, right, and all the clarity that we are receiving about the other twin, so about our counterpart, that this is kind of what is happening to your counterpart. But that is not the truth. And this is why I really wanted to talk about this, because it's very important. So the divine masculine's awakening and this journey doesn't start with clarity like it does for the divine feminine, right? So the divine feminine, when she's awakened, when she's activated, she's pretty much bombarded with information, with clarity, explaining things. And I have talked about this on my channel before, but the divine feminine is thrown onto deep water that is filled with guideposts and information about who she is, who her twin is, kind of what they're doing, what is happening. The guidance is there. There's so much information that we almost, I say we because I am the divine feminine. I am that polarity incarnate. However, of course, we all have a balance of both in each of us. So we kind of have to learn to sift through all of this and make sense of it all, because there's so much information at all times. And then once you kind of start picking out the truth, once you pretty much basically you start to remember who you are, then it becomes more of a like a steady flow of guidance instead of you just being thrown into an ocean of it. For the divine masculine, however, his awakening isn't like this. For him, it's the opposite of clarity. For him, or for them, I should say, for the divine masculine, whether you are in a female body or a man's body, the divine masculine's awakening is very much them being in the dark and things just happening all around them that pushes them further and further down, like in like a some sort of spiral. So for them, it's a lot of like the chaos of emotional overload, the absolute panic of being so seen by their divine feminine. There's a lot of emotions that come up that the divine masculine does not understand where it all comes from because they never felt this way before. There is grief because, I apologize, because once they are made aware by the divine of some of the things, they can never ever unsee these things. A lot of them will kind of get a confirmation that the connection is real at some point, and it just destroys them. And for them, they, how do I put it? Because obviously I do not want to say anything that will be taken wrongly here, because it's not about that. None of the polarities are better. None of them have it worse. Both polarities have it the way they have it. But the guidance and the signs and the synchronicities, the emotions that are rising within the divine masculine, they are not really aware of them from the start the way we have been as a divine feminine. So and it's not that they're less intelligent. It's not about that. I'm really trying to stress that out, because the whole design of this journey is made this way. This is why a lot of people will say that the divine masculine is the 3D matrix or the 3D twin, whereas the divine feminine is the 5D twin, because she's connected. She sees connection in everything. She sees all the sign, right? The divine masculine is taught not to pay attention to any of that. So for him, all the chaos that ensues is very much, they're basically kind of kept in the dark, and everything around them is starting to fall apart. So when that starts happening, of course, the divine masculine is realizing that he has been living a lie, and that he has been trapped by his own limitations and the life that he has built for himself, that he has wholeheartedly believed that this is going to be good for him and it's going to protect him, right? Because that's just what he has been taught. And once he feels or realizes really, or kind of pays attention to the love that he feels for his divine feminine, even though he may from the beginning kind of not call it love, because we as humans, one of the karmic imprints that we have to transcend on this earth is us believing that a karmic connection, so attachment and lust and need for other people, codependency, that is love. That is not love, obviously. But we don't know that until we learn better. So the divine masculine, feels terrified of it all, really, because he suddenly, kind of from nowhere, sees just this huge discrepancy between what he feels that he knows the truth is about life and everything and love, and how he has lived the life on earth up until that moment, and seeing everybody around him living in exactly the same way. So for us, the divine feminines, the difference is that our awakening is kind of loud, it's external, and I will, in my next video, I am going to explain kind of what I mean by that. And for the divine masculine is very much internal. And when I say that, I am just kind of saying the way we deal with these things, because obviously this is an internal journey. Yes, maybe it's external if you move places, you move countries, but it's inner work. So what I'm gonna do, actually, to kind of make it easier for you guys to listen to it, because this video would be 2 hours long, and I don't know if that would work. I'm actually thinking if there could be another way that I could have a proper podcast instead, where it would be more consistent. I don't know, maybe like 40-minute videos. But for now, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna pause it here. And in my next video, I am going to go into more depth about what I mentioned today. So I am going to go into detail what is happening with the divine masculine once he is fully aware, fully awakened, and it has been confirmed to him that yes, in fact, there is a divine connection, that there is a divine feminine. The divine masculines get confirmed that who their divine feminine is. And now the real work for the divine masculine starts. And this is what I'm going to talk about in the next video. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for listening. If you feel guided to, I welcome you to listen to the part 2. If not, thank you, take care, and I will talk to you another time. Bye.